Mike and Tom are registered with Stewart Partners Global Advisory LLC.
Common Sense Finance with Mike Wiginton and Tom Farrell of HL Wiginton Capital Management, an independent investment and financial planning firm in downtown Jasper. Mike is a chartered financial analyst charter holder, and Tom is a certified financial planner professional. They are here to discuss and give their thoughts on current financial and economic matters. Now, with Common Sense Finance, here are Mike and Tom.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition. And today Tom's going to be talking about retirement planning and critical steps that you ought to take several years out before you actually pull the lever on retirement. And Tom, you know, when I think about that, I'm reminded of folks that will come into the office, first time we've ever met them, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm retiring at the end of the year." Now, who knows? This could be on January 1 or this could be on March 31st when they tell you this, right? I'm retiring at the end of the year. So they're locked and loaded. There's no going back on that for them mentally. But their retirement plans may not be in agreement, right, when we put the data in. And so this whole idea about, hey, taking a look at this several years out is interesting to me. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, and, you know, it's the earlier you can start taking these steps, the better off you're going to be in retirement. You can have a better picture of it. And the first step you need to take is you need to have a plan that's in place well before, 4 or 5 years out from retirement. It makes me think about, where Detroit, Alabama is?
I do know where Detroit is.
Okay, good. It's not Michigan, but Detroit, Alabama. So I think I've probably been through there before. I don't remember it. I don't know how to get there. So if I decided, hey, I'm going to get up this morning, I'm going to go to Detroit, Alabama, I'm not going to take a map, I'm not going to do any research, I'm not going to take a GPS, I'm just going to get my car and start driving, I'm probably not going to find Detroit, Alabama. Same thing with retirement planning. If you don't set forth a plan that lays out your spending goals,
maps it out,
maps everything out for you, so you know exactly, do my finances, what I have, line up with what I need, you're going to have a rough transition into retirement. I know we've talked to people all the time. Hey, you think you're going to retire at the end of the year, but let's sit down and look at it just like you mentioned earlier. You're going to need to keep working. Or hey, you wanted X amount of money a month. You're not going to be able to take that.
And that conversation's usually not well received.
It's not, and a lot of times it's because people have not planned in advance for taking that step into retirement. So I'm going to talk about, assuming you have a good plan in place that's up to date. I'm going to talk about the steps you take leading up to retirement, maybe 4 or 5 years out from retirement. So the first thing is, we like for everybody to build, if they don't already, a 12 to 18 month cash reserve.
Minimum.
So whatever you think you're going to spend a year in retirement, we like to have that. We need to start building that up about 4 or 5 years out. And by the time you retire, we want it to be in place. The reason for that is, a lot of people have 401ks, IRAs, they have investment assets, and they're planning on taking assets out of those accounts to fund their retirement. We don't want to be in a situation where you're having to take assets out of that account after maybe the stock market's had a pullback. So we have that cash buffer in place. So if the market is down, we can let the market rebound, use that cash until it does. So that's one reason we want to have a big cash reserve sitting there for most folks. About 3 or 4 years out, depending on your situation, again, these are all general rules, but 3 or 4 years out, you want to look at reallocating your assets a little bit. If you're heavy, maybe you're maybe overweight a little bit, stocks, you want to probably pare that back and put some other assets in there that are not as volatile, because again, you don't want big swings in your account value leading into retirement. You want it to be a smooth transition. That's one thing you can do. Now, one thing that we hear a lot is, and this is a myth, and I don't know where this came from, is, hey, when you get close to retirement or when you retire, you need to move all your money out of the stock market because, it's too risky and you need to have it in bonds, something safer. Well, that's not going to work either. So that's not what we're saying here. We're saying, hey, you just need to dial it back a little bit to a healthy percentage of stocks.
And that's probably more important today than it was some years ago, with interest rates being as low as they are. So you start reallocating into something that's giving you today below average market returns. So that is a critical factor today.
Yeah, and that's something you definitely need to look at, and you have to sit down and again, this goes back to having your plan in place
Right.
and working off of that. So, because really when you look at it, the people that have the most success in retirement, and we're talking about financially, they have enough money, they have enough resources to take care of themselves. Investment wise, studies have shown that, yeah, you need to pare it back a little bit before retirement. When you get into retirement, you actually need to start building your stock percentage back up in your account, because you're going to need that money to last you for 20, 25, 30 plus years. You have to have some growth in there, so that's why you need to start. But the first few years, you probably do need to dial it back a little bit, just in case we have a pullback and you're having to take money out like you talked about earlier. That's a double whammy. You're taking money out to pay yourself, plus the market's going down,
Right.
so we want to try to smooth that out. So that's about 4 years out. Also, go ahead at that point in time and start taking care of any major purchases you might need to make. So if you have long lifespan type purchases you're going to make, like a roof, you're doing a remodel on your house, you're having to replace an automobile, go ahead and get that knocked out well before retirement, because you don't want to increase in your budget as you're heading into retirement. So while you're still earning an income, go ahead and take care of that. So that's another thing we recommend to do.
Okay.
So 2 years out, go ahead and review your estate plan. Make sure your wills, your POA, that's power of attorney, your health directives, all those things are in order. That's just a good time to kind of sit down and go over those things. Also, you need to review your debt. I mean, do you have some debt that you need to pay down, or is it debt that you can live with? Maybe it's a low interest rate mortgage. Do you plan on selling your home when you retire? Downsizing, or maybe moving to somewhere else? Probably need to go ahead and start trying to take care of that before you retire. So you want to eliminate any of those big expenses, right into retirement. So then a year out, take financial inventory of what you have. Just look at all your financial resources, take an inventory, look at your pension, what you're going to draw on Social Security. I've even run across people that have worked for companies years ago. They hadn't worked for them in 20 years. They found, hey, I've got a little pension there. So go ahead and check. Maybe in your 20s or 30s, you were working somewhere. You may have some kind of benefit there you don't know about. And then a few months leading into retirement, go ahead and get with your benefits people at your company. If you work for a corporation, make sure you've got your plan documents and all that lined up. And if you're younger than 65 and you're going to be retired, talk to them about COBRA. COBRA is health insurance where you can cover yourself typically for about 18 months after you leave a company, and it can be much more affordable than going out on the open market and buying insurance yourself. So those are some steps you can take leading into retirement to help make that transition a lot smoother.
Well, that's good, and I don't think you could ever hear about planning in advance. I don't think you could hear that too much, because so many of, like we said earlier, so many of the pitfalls that folks will encounter come from not thinking through the process, going through those thinking exercises, we
Right.
refer to them. And so that's a great message for everybody to hear. Anyway, hope that if you have any questions or any comments, that you send us emails. You'll see the email addresses at the bottom of the screen, and we'll see you next time.
Just can't believe all the things people say. Controversy. Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? Controversy. Do I believe God? Do I believe me? Controversy. 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 I can't understand